Welcome to the AskBYS Podcast, a monthly podcast brought to you by Bainbridge Youth Services and its supporting sponsors. AskBYS Podcast connects parents to professionals that can provide support, education, and resources on a particular topic in parenting. The speaker's words and opinions are their own and do not represent the policies or opinions of BYS. I am your host, Jessica Crook, and am here with Milagro Castilleja as our producer. We are recording live at the Media Arts Studio at Barn, the Bainbridge Artisan Resource Network, and we greatly appreciate this incredible space. Today, we are having a conversation around picky eating and whole family feeding. I'd like to welcome our expert guest, Emily Bell from Peacefully Nourished. Welcome, Emily.
Hello, thanks for inviting me.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. We also have Jennifer Edwards. Hello.
Hi, thanks for having me as well.
Yes. Well, let's dive in.
Awesome. Me? Okay. Well, I'll start. My name is Jennifer Edwards. I am from Detroit, Michigan. I moved to Bainbridge Island about 2 years ago and very quickly got involved with Bainbridge Youth Services. I have a background and actually started a nonprofit before in Vancouver, Canada, that was all about getting young girls into triathlon with a focus on their mental health and specifically through the pandemic and just giving girls something to do while we were all shut down. Mental health for young children and youth have always been very important to me. And so I'm now a board member and also a marketing professional. I work for F5 here in Seattle. I've been working in marketing for 10 years now. And I'm also a mother. I'm currently 6 weeks postpartum, so apologies if I ramble or I lose my words. And I also have a toddler girl who is 2.5 and is driving me crazy. So I need your help. Please help me.
Yes, happy to be here. I'm Emily Bell, and I have a master's degree in nutrition education and currently in private practice, both on Bainbridge Island and in Paulsbo. And so now my work really is supporting individuals and families with nutrition. And I have been working in the field probably about 15 years now at this point. And I just love it and providing some peace to those families that struggle. So hopefully we can do a little bit of that today.
Yes, I think we all have been there.
Yes,
yeah.
Are in it right
yes,
now, currently.
And in ourselves when we were kids, probably.
Probably, yes.
Okay, well, I'll start. I guess I'll start with some questions, and hopefully people can relate to them. My child, like I said, she's 2.5, and she eats probably about 10 things right now. And I, as I was talking to Jessica earlier, I feel like I've done all the right things. I did, or at least for what, Instagram tells me is the right things to do. So I did baby-led weaning. Me and my husband have very diverse diets. We eat with her. We eat in front of her. We model good eating, try to encourage her, but not put too much pressure on. And with doing all of that, she refuses to eat healthy foods, but even refuses to eat a lot of kid foods. And so I'm kind of just like back against the wall, don't even know where, and I'm almost just starting to give up and just giving her, those 10 things, yogurt, goldfish, which I know she can't live off of, or can she? I don't know. That's another question. That's kind of just the context of my child. And I know I'm not the only one out there, but just based off that, does anything ring?
Yeah, I mean, feeding kids is really difficult, and they're all very different. And I think that that's one of the things that stood out as you were talking right there was that, like, the right things. Like, there's so much information about what to do and not to do when it comes to feeding kids, and it gets very confusing. And part of that is because there is no one right way. And so I think one of the things I've really learned through my years of working with families is that I can pull and be informed by all these different researchers and stories and families, but really what is important is finding what works for your family and your child. And so I think that's what makes it all the more difficult, right, is that you can't just go like, oh, this worked for so-and-so, so, right, it's a lot of, the analogy I often use is like we're throwing darts at a dartboard hoping to hit a bullseye at some point. And that's a very frustrating process when you are.
Yes, I'd just like a guidebook, please, just of how to fix
Yes,
this.
I wish there was a guidebook, right, to be able to just, I think that person that could create that guidebook would be
a lot of money.
really wealthy,
yeah.
right? And that's the truth for so many nutrition issues, for lack of a better word, right, is that we all want to be told, given the guidebook.
Yes.
But
And I'm pretty sure I actually have spent money on Instagram already looking for people who are maybe profiteering off these guidebooks. But, and yeah, that's another difficult thing as a parent is that I definitely see like conflicting advice sometimes. And yeah, so I kind of, I guess one place to start is, are there any kind of like general rules? Like, for example, I went to my pediatrician, like I've talked to her about this 100 times, and she's had phrases such as like, you offer them it 30 times, like try to make them like touch it first and then do this. And are there any kind of general rules or guidelines that you see works, just as a starting point? Or
yeah, sometimes it doesn't feel like the most helpful advice, but the research does show that like offering and continuing to offer is one of the most important things we can do. There's definitely been something that is like 20 times, 30 times, 50 times, right? Somebody will try and put out a number, but it really, again, just depends on the family and the individual. So continuing to offer in lots of different and creative ways. Gotcha. As well as modeling. So that would be the other piece that I like to talk a lot about as well, is like the importance of showing your children that you also enjoy those foods, right? So sometimes it's even just them watching others eat food is also an important part of that expansion.
Totally.
To them being able to eat.
I think a good example here is berries. My daughter will not eat berries, and obviously, like I love berries. And her, like, the weird thing is, like, she'll be with her toddler friends. Her toddler friends are smashing the berries, and so she's watching them be like, like eating over and over. And what she does is she'll like hold one and pretend to eat it, like she wants to be involved, but like won't actually put it in her mouth. And it's interesting you're saying that you have to present it in lots of different ways, because that's something we don't do. So like me, like I have a nanny and she's like in on this with me trying to, and every day for lunch for over 6 months, she has put a blueberry on her plate every single day. Just one blueberry to be like not spooky, it's there, yeah. Chill, like no pressure. And like she, like obviously that's not going anywhere, but I'm like, oh, that's kind of helpful to hear that like maybe we just like that's not working. Let's try to present it in different creative ways. But I'm like, yeah, when my doctor was like, try it 20 times, I'm like, oh, I've tried it 300 times.
Well, and I love that. That's a great like dart to throw, yeah, right?
I should consider it thrown now. I think that has failed.
And yes, so then it's looking at that like, okay, well now that didn't work for her where it might have worked for another child, right? Because you brought up that point of no pressure as well, which is a big, I think, debated thing amongst different providers and families.
Like it's putting more pressure on me to be like, don't put pressure on them. And then I'm like, well, that makes me anxious. So I'm like, am I being pressured? Oh, I know, like, right. It's just a vicious circle.
Yes, and that's what's lovely about having, I guess, an outside person be able to just put that, like for your nanny, just to put that on the plate and leave it there. And so that's sort of made that food, like you said, hopefully less scary, but that doesn't mean that she's going to like it.
Yeah. No, I can firmly, she's not afraid of the blueberry. She just won't. Like,
ignores it. Doesn't want it.
She thinks it's a prop.
Yes. Yes. So you could also, so think about it in different ways. Sometimes it's like, does she like blueberry jam? Does she like blueberries in her pancakes? Does she like, can we put blueberries in another way that...
She'll sometimes have a smoothie, which is like, would be amazing if she would consistently like this, because I obviously like my pediatrician also gives the advice of like, well, make sure she's having her multivitamin. And I'm like, if I can't get her to eat a blueberry, how do you think I'm going to get her to take a multivitamin? Like, she won't even have a gummy. And I'm like, this is candy. I don't know how to help you. Like, Or especially like I have, liquid multivitamins or powder multivitamins. And if you don't have anything to put it into without it being obvious, so I'm like, oh, a smoothie would be great. Because also like she's been having constipation issues, which I'm sure comes from just eating goldfish. So I'm like, oh, put some fiber in but the thing is with the smoothies, it's like 1 out of 20 that I offer her, she'll take like a little sip of. Because the other weird thing about my daughter is that she will only drink water. She never drank milk. She was on my boob. I breastfed for 18 months, and she never took a bottle, and she never took milk, and she won't drink juice. She won't drink smoothies. Like, I'm like, things that are pure sugar. I'm like, I can't. It's killing me, kids.
Yes. Where some kids won't drink water.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, so hard how they all have their different idiosyncrasies, right? Yeah. And so, yes, I love that she drinks
water,
she just drinks water,
That's
right?
True.
Like, that is often a...
Practice gratitude for what is working.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, and to continue to create that safety, right? And I love that I hear that feels important to you as well, is that you don't want her to feel that pressure or to have fear around food.
Yes. That is one thing I can say. Like, my mom, I was talking to Jessica earlier, but I really didn't eat much growing up, and my mom was always worried that I wasn't getting enough food. My doctor would always tell her, like, oh, don't worry, your kid, like, will never starve themselves. And I don't feel like I was hungry at the time, but now that I think about it, and even still to this day, my mom would just, like, pepper me with questions immediately at the table and, like, be like, do you like it? Oh, this is organic. And tell me all about it. And tell me, and be like, oh, yeah, and then eat it. Oh, finish that. That's really good for you. This is, like, really good for your eyes. Carrots are good for you. I was like, stop. Like, it stresses me out. And then, then she would, like, obviously be peppering me to finish the meal and being like, oh, clean plate club or whatever. And I would always feel so anxious, and like I would immediately stop my appetite, like, at the table. And so I think I just have that really deep memory of, like, I really don't like being pressured. Obviously no one likes to be pressured, but, like, I think that it actually does take away my appetite, like, even to this day. And I think I just have a reactive personality where if someone tells me to do something, I'm like, I'm not going to do that. And so I think that I worry that I'm overcorrecting with my own kid, of being like, I really didn't like to be told to eat. I've never, like, me, my husband, and my husband's Irish, and so I don't know if there has different things with the famine back then, but his family is like, you absolutely need to finish absolutely everything on your meal. And so he's like that, and whereas I'm very comfortable leaving my food half empty, or, like, not finishing things, and he is just like has to finish it. He'll finish my plate just out of, like, fear of not finishing the food, and I'm like, that's crazy. Like, but so yeah, I guess I think you're touching on earlier that, like, about the pressure situation, like, like, where is the line of, like, could I put pressure on her, or, like, should I not, or should I put zero pressure on her? What's the situation there?
Yeah, great question, because sometimes I see families almost lean too far over into that permissive side.
Yeah,
right? Like you're saying,
I feel like that's me.
Where they, if they have that history where pressure was made them more fearful, right?
Yeah, it made my stomach hurt. Like, I remember getting stomach aches, and then I would say, my mom, my stomach hurts, and then she'd always take me to the doctor, be like, is she allergic to something? And I'm like, I think I just have anxiety because you keep asking me questions. Just leave me alone.
Yes. And now you have those words, but you probably didn't have them so eloquently as a child, right? And so often our kids can't explain that, right? And again, coming back to that different personalities, where some kids do, I'm sure you guys have heard of the 2-bite rule.
I haven't.
No? Anybody?
No.
It's I hear it from clients sometimes who will ask me what I think about it. And the 2-bite rule is kind of this idea where you ask your child to at least give 2 bites, right? Which is a lot of pressure.
I feel so uncomfortable to doing that. Like, I also it just feels like non-consensual. Like, it feels like very, like, you have to do this. It's like, would they feel comfortable saying no then? Like,
right. It's a little forceful. And then a lot of times that 2-bite rule comes with, you can't have such and such until you take 2 bites of whatever.
I don't like that.
And so that can be, that is pressure, right?
Yeah.
I think that is an example of pressure, where to just play devil's advocate for a little bit too, to say on the other side, where I have seen actually that be really supportive and helpful for children that will not take any initiative at all to try anything.
Gotcha.
And so that 2-bite rule can almost be kind of fun. It can be like, oh, I'm going to give it 2 bites, and then I can spit it out, or I can be done and move away from the table, and it actually frees them.
Yeah.
So it all depends on the child, right? Like coming back to that, but just to kind of spin that in a way, and I think it is also so much the way the parent presents that.
Gotcha.
Too,
yeah,
right?
if it's like a fun, like no, there's not going to be a punishment if this doesn't go well.
Right.
Like,
can we just give it 2 bites?
Yeah,
can
yeah.
We just, you know, and you had mentioned before, like how important is it to like taste it or to touch it or to like food chaining.
Yeah.
Is something that a lot of
I hear a lot about that.
therapists will do for picky eating and for children. And that's kind of that idea of like they get closer and like the blueberry on the plate, and then they have to touch the blueberry on the plate, and then they have to smell the blueberry, right? So there's like a chaining event with foods in order to, right? And for some children, that is seen as pressure. It makes things worse, and it causes more harm. Where for some kids, like it actually does expand their variety. So it's, again, kind of looking at what works for your child. And how that can work in your home and in your house. So that consistency piece is also really important. And I don't know, as a parent myself, I will admit that some days I'm like patient and say the right things, but then there's times where I'm just like, eat the flippin' blueberry, right? Like it's all pressure.
Totally.
So that just ruins it all. Right? You have to be super consistent. So.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think. It's just interesting. Obviously, like different things, just realizing that different things work for different people. And I think I've probably gotten stuck too hard into like cannot put any pressure in the situation, where I think I'm like that too permissive parent where I can maybe just try different things. Like as long as because obviously I feel like I have a really secure attachment with her. And I think if I'm like fun and like lighthearted and like make it fun and silly and like chill, that like I can still like, because right now at this point I'm like, do not put like to my husband, like, do not put any pressure on it. Do not put any pressure on it. And like if she does touch anything, we're like, don't say anything. Just don't look at her. Don't look at her. Don't look at her. Don't breathe. No one. And I'm like, and then obviously that like is so ironic because like through trying to be chill, I'm like making the room is like static electricity because I'm like, everyone just like chill out. And you're like, obviously I'm not chill. And so, I think
that makes me think about, so a lot of my work is based on work done by Ellen Satter, who is a childhood researcher and has published a lot of work on feeding children. And she has an amazing website and books, and I would highly recommend looking into her resources for more information on this approach if it resonates with you. But she talks about the division of responsibility, which means parents have some roles and responsibilities in the feeding relationship, and children have some responsibilities and roles in the feeding relationship. And that if everybody, everybody needs to stick to their role and not sort of try and you're not trying to do the child's role, the child should not be doing your role. So she says that parents are in charge of the what. Oh gosh, off the top of my head, this is really hard. I may need to pause and look at it. The what, the where, and the when. Children are in charge of the if. Yeah. So like if they're going to eat and how much they're going to eat. Okay, so with that sort of gives you like some parameters, some boundaries in terms of like the when, for example. A lot of times I'm working with families on the when their child eats, because having in creating that safety, it's your children know that there's regular meal and snack times, right? They're going to be fed on a regular basis, right? And that food is going to be offered, and a variety of different foods are going to be offered each of those times. And so that's one of those just creating a safe feeding environment, right?
That's really interesting. That's a really good, I think, kind of foundation block that I haven't really thought of, because I think I'm like kind of a type B, even though I'm very anxious, but I'm a weird combination of anxious and type B. But I think we do lots of snacks, and we're very reactive, I feel like, as a family. And I even breastfeeding her, I would be breastfeeding her on demand. So I feel like we're very yes. But I think I've continued that to the fact that we're I feel like, and the way I eat as an adult and how I've continued is very grazy. I think I have a very small stomach, and if I eat too much, my stomach hurts. I eat very grazy, and we're not a big family at a certain time meal. And even like with her nanny and everything, we're very like nap whenever she's tired. Like if she's tired at 10:30, put her down. If she's tired at 1, or if she doesn't want to nap at all, like I feel like my parenting has been very reactive. And so like it's helpful to know from a professional, like, is it important should I be working towards having like, 9, 12, 5 is dinner time. And like, these are the snap times. Cause that's been one fear of mine, is that like, I offer so many snacks and snacks are always available. She can reach her snacks herself also. She'll go get her snacks. And it's like, is that kind of like, is that a bad idea?
Yeah, good question. And again, like, so this is like a research-based answer and approach, generalized.
Yeah, I like it.
If we were actually like working together and we were seeing your family, like I would want to dive into that and get more history behind that. But I'll give you the generalized one. But knowing, so I'm a little extra sensitive because I work a lot also with children that are neurodivergent or have some history of trauma or abuse. I work a lot with the foster care system as well. So in those situations, we might approach it differently. But as a generalized approach, yes. So sort of saying, if it works for your family to kind of have those windows, and then not eating in between those eating times actually helps a child kind of come in with a little bit of hunger and interest in their food. And so they're actually more likely to be a bit more adventurous.
That makes sense. Yeah. I think I've not done that.
That's when we started seeing a change, is when we actually set a schedule and are consistent with our eating times, and which is really nice because then it brings the whole family together to eat. And I really like having that tradition for my kids moving forward. But also, well, you should have eaten your lunch if you're hungry right now, but look, you have 30 more minutes and I'm cooking right now, or dinner's about to be ready, so you can make it, but tomorrow. And again, mine are 9 and almost 7, so we can reason.
Yeah.
But, we did the OT.
Yeah.
We've done all the things, and we're still having some picky eating, a lot of picky eating issues. But setting a schedule has been made a huge difference for all of us.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that. Thanks for adding that piece, right? Because it's similar to other parenting issues. Like, boundaries are important for children, right? And so this is almost like, sometimes I talk about it as the little bit of a boundary for kids, right? That actually ends up providing safety instead of, it's like lines on a road, right? So we don't drive our car down the ditch. Here's our lines. This is when we eat, and helps them.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds like something I need to try immediately. Yeah.
Good. Love it. Yes. One
it's nice to come away with one thing to like, this is a new dart I can throw at the board, see if it works. And yeah. And I, like you said, I think it's nice because we eat with her a lot, but it's very casual. Like, we never use our dining table. Like, that's a random question. Like, do you, like, because we eat a lot, like, in the living room or outside or, like, in the kitchen. Like, have you found a benefit in, like, eating at the dinner table together?
Yes. If you can make it work, there is lengthy research and evidence to the benefits of family meals.
Yeah.
Both for mental health and for nutritional health. So we do find that kids will try more, that they communicate more. There's connection and safety that happens around a table.
That's amazing.
And then they can set the table.
Yeah.
You can give them a
Give them
test.
jobs
Oh,
to
it's
do.
almost time. Like, set the table. Yeah.
That is fun.
Yeah, and building up that appetite is actually really important. It's one thing as a culture we, I think, have gotten farther away from, right? It's like we are not coming into all of our meals sort of ready and excited for them, right? It's because it's like, shoot, I got to shove something in and move on to my next thing, right? We don't want to do that for our kids.
No.
Right? Like, I would, to have them sort of get excited for that family meal, to set that table actually starts to get their appetite going and their anticipation going. Hopefully, right?
Yeah.
It might also get them. Sometimes my kids are like, well, how can I get out of this meal?
Yeah.
Because they know that something's coming that they don't really like. But
yeah. Is there, because I see sometimes on Instagram, like, about, obviously, I think my daughter's maybe not too young for this, but having them help, like, cook and having them, like, involved with the preparation. Like, of the food, makes them feel more connected to it? Is that
another great approach? Yes, is that we do find that, like, if they're touching it, if they're feeling it, if it's something they've invested time and energy in, they're so much more excited about it.
That's so true. That makes sense.
Gardening as well, right? Like, I had a kid that would eat vegetables that were dirty and out of the ground, but if they show up on a table, no way.
Oh my God, interesting.
Yeah, like he would pull the carrots out. Yeah. Like, he would eat the carrots like that he would pull out of the dirt, but if like baby carrots came with the meal, I don't like carrots. I'm like, you ate carrots.
You do like carrots.
So, now, granted, garden carrots fresh out of the soil probably do taste better than baby carrots from the grocery store. But all that to say, like, it's, there is a different excitement and connection to, I grew this, and I'm proud of this, and I know this, and this is fun. It's dirty. I don't know.
I love that. Yeah, and especially here in the Pacific Northwest, we can grow so many cool things. Like, I definitely want to
snap peas, and it's the time. Spring is the time.
Okay, I'll get on that too. I'm getting a longer list here of things to do.
Yes.
And to really keep it fun, right? Like, that's what also what you remember is to have fun with it, is to bring that anxiety down, and that there can be creative ways to increase the acceptance without pressure.
Definitely. That was one of my questions for you is, like, I assume that when you work with people that it's similar to, this is at least how I felt. When I trained my dog, we got a dog trainer, and the guy was like, I'm not training the dog, I'm training you. And so, like, this is all about you. And, like, dogs will do, like, I know what the dog will do. I'm, like, teaching you guys how to, like, be dog owners. And so I assume that's kind of, I would assume it's similar, that you're mostly dealing with the parents, not the kids. Like, you're dealing with training the parents.
Especially for kids your age.
Yeah.
Like, I would say that what I say all the time is my goal is to raise competent eaters.
Yeah.
Right? Is that I want to children to come into to their teenage and young adult years feeling competent in their ability to choose foods that feel good in their body, that nourish their body, that help them feel good.
Like,
right?
food literacy.
Yes. And that is, like, parents sort of have to teach that up to a point, right? So if for kids that are younger all the way up into, like, early teen years, yes. And then it's sometimes teens are able to take more independence and autonomy for, like, what they're doing, and that's when I would start working more individually with a teen.
Well, I bring it up because one of my questions was, I feel like, and I was talking to Jessica about this as well, but, like, I feel like, I'm learning new things today that I can try, but I feel like sometimes I feel disheartened or kind of like, as a parent, I know it's my job, and I feel like I've tried really, really hard, and I've tried so many things, and you don't really feel like you're making any progress, and then you go online, and everyone's like, ask your doctor, go get help, and then it's just, everything is just putting it back on you as the parent, kind of constantly. And, I'm 6 weeks postpartum, so you can imagine, like, especially with baby stuff, it's just constantly, like, do this, do that. And you're like, I am not, like, a magician. Like, I can't. Right. And my favorite is the advice from the doctor when you leave the hospital. It's like, ensure the baby eats this. You're like, I can't ensure the baby does anything. Nope. Like, you can't force feed children. And that's why it's annoying, because the advice will be like, ensure your kids are getting 5 vegetables a day. It's like, I can't ensure that. But then it's, like, on me, and then those words are in my head. And so it's just, like, constantly failing at something every day, at every meal, every time she puts anything in her mouth. And it's just like, oh, I didn't ensure that. It's like, okay, cool. And now I figured out where the brand name Ensure comes from. For
yes.
Yes. I literally just made that connection in my head, because I'm like, I hate when they say that. They're like, ensure they're doing this. And I'm like, I can't control this separate human being. And so, again, one of my questions is for parents who feel like they've done everything right, and we've already reached out to our doctors, we've already gotten help, and kind of just, like, feel hopeless. Like, do you have advice for parents about, like, managing the guilt and frustration and, like, shame that comes with having failed at this?
Yes, you are so correct. That I think that's where Ellen Satter's division of responsibility work can maybe even provide, like, that piece a little bit too, right? Is to know, like, you can't ensure that your child eats anything. I often use the example of, you ever tried to feed, like, a 1-year-old. Like, if they don't want to eat it, they're not going to eat it. No. They throw it across the room. There's no forcing a young child to eat. So that is why I think kind of knowing what you do, what your role is, what you do have control over, and what you don't can really provide some peace in that.
It is helpful. We should write into those like nation guidelines and be like, stop using the word ensure, or like putting it on parents. Like if we could do that, we would be doing that. You know what I mean? Like,
and then too, like, I think that parent support is also really important too. Like talking to other parents, talking to other professionals. Like that's BYS has those parent support groups, and I think that that's exactly why, is because there's so much in just going like, oh, I'm not the only one struggling with this. And sometimes people may have tips and tricks to try, which again, just more darts to throw. Maybe they work, maybe they don't. But to try to not let that personal responsibility, like when you're doing, then that is also why there's professionals to help, though, right? Like, do seek out some additional support if you need more darts to throw.
Definitely, that is helpful. I like the roles thing where it's like all I can do is like, I'm doing everything I can. All I can do is provide what food, like at what time, which I'm going to work on. And what was the other one?
What?
Oh, yeah.
So what you get to decide
what to present
gets
to them.
served.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like my daughter can't go buy her own goldfish. So the fact that she's eating goldfish every day means something.
Right.
But on the other hand, you're like, what if she starves?
Well, and so I always say when you are presenting food, right, we want to keep familiar, safe foods always as part of what is offered.
Gotcha.
And so that maybe those goldfish aren't there every time, but those goldfish are there every day.
Gotcha. That
right?
makes me feel better, yeah.
Yeah, so
just
that they can be a part of a snack, but there's also some other things at that snack, and that you're always going to offer something that's safe. You're always going to like allow them to get their calorie needs met.
Nice,
right?
yeah.
And I think too, you kind of brought up that like when do we worry? When does it become scary? And that is why continuing to go to your pediatrician and talking to them is also important. We want to make sure those children are growing, right? But children are really good at growing off of a variety of things.
Yes.
It often feels like nothing, but right, they will meet their needs. They will find a way, hopefully. But if they're not,
yes.
we want to address that quickly.
That is one thing. I read a baby book, or like some sort of picky eating book, and one thing I read in it that gave me some peace of mind was just like kind of realizing how small they are, and like even a kid is smaller than us, and it's like my husband's 6'6", so like when I make him a plate of food, like you can imagine how many calories he needs to be full, and how many calories I need to be full versus like, and so like what looks like to me appeared to be you ate nothing. To them, like very well, like they could be full off of what they're like, like tiny stomach, and you're just like, that's So I think that also, like, I think we have a warped, especially with American portions. So like we have our American portions in our head for adults, and then it's like that's actually another interesting thing. One thing that stressed me out about my mom, which still stresses me out, when she fills up a plate, she fills it like a heap, like mounding plate. And that always gave me so much anxiety because I'm like, that's way too much. And so, like, is that another piece of advice to, like, kind of, like, should I just, like, put less than I want her to eat? Like, as a, like, reverse psychology. Like, here, just have one thing. Like, you can have more. Like,
I mean, your child's a little bit of a young of an age to do this, but you could start sort of. I always recommend as much as you can, sort of serving like family style. Like, how much do you want? 1 scoop or 2 scoops, and then allowing her to do 1 scoop or 2 scoops as she has the motor control to do that, right? And so allowing her to sort of decide how much goes on her plate, and then as kids get, like for your kids, that's very. For Jessica's kids that are older, right? Like that's a really appropriate time, early elementary age, for them to start serving.
Have you tried the family style thing?
Only because of Emily.
Yeah.
Yes,
Did it work?
And it's great. They consumed a lot of cheese for taco night.
Nice.
It does work. My daughter really likes having control, which I think goes back to the whole underground issue of her picky eating, perhaps, is the control factor. But for my son, he was like, great. That means I only, the almost 7-year-old, that means I only have to have 1 teeny piece of chicken and 1 teeny piece of cheese, whatever it is, and then he's good. And that's it.
Wild.
And so I'm like, oh, did this not work? But we're still eating like that. And he makes me very nervous that he's not getting his nutritional needs met. And at 7, we can talk to him, but Still
can't force feed them.
I know.
Unfortunately.
And what that does is like erase that pressure, right? And so that comes back to that idea of like it's still providing some boundaries, but without pressure.
Yeah.
And that's going to help him to feel safe enough to try different things as he gets older in terms of mixing up that macronutrient content for lack of a
Can I
better
ask you, what do you do, like, in the case of, like, a 7-year-old, like, because now I'm, like, thinking ahead, like, what do you do if, like, what do you do at dinner time if they eat, like, a tiny piece of chicken and a tiny piece of cheese? What do you just...
Act like we don't see it.
Yeah.
We're just like, okay. But we offer dessert every night, so
Yeah.
there's always
Calories
dessert. And I don't believe in clean plate club.
Yeah.
I don't like that whole notion, but there's always dessert, but you do have to eat a healthy meal to get dessert.
Yeah.
And so they rarely get dessert.
Yeah.
My husband and I always have dessert, but
I think too, one thing, especially when they're smaller, when they're younger too, knowing that appetites vary, right? So there are some days where they are going to eat just a bite or two, and then there's some days they're going to take 4 helpings.
Yes.
Right? And little kids, adults don't do that as much. We're not growing
Yeah.
anymore, right? In the same way, but the children, right, there's days, and they're so good at being able to self-regulate that if we let them.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm sure a 7-year-old's still growing, like, would have growth spurts.
Gosh,
Yeah.
yes. Well,
So maybe he's just in a low growth period.
I don't know, but is incentivizing okay? Is that and not like you didn't, but they just know. At this age, they know that it's there. If they want it, they can open the freezer or the pantry or, see like, oh, there's dessert options. But we don't emphasize you have to finish this. They just know at this point. Is that unhealthy
that can
tactic?
be viewed as pressure, and it also can be viewed as hierarchy of foods, right? Is that some foods are better than others.
Oh.
And so, again, we got to see what works for your family and for that child, but just being careful that we're also not setting up a hierarchy of good foods and bad foods, right? Is that those calories are important for growth, period, right? And that we want them. So like Ellen Satter, her recommendation is actually that you serve dessert with dinner, and so that it is a part of the dinner, it's part of the meal, and that it's not more special or,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is huge.
Oh, really? Because
So what do you mean with dinner?
Yeah.
What does this look like? What does your mealtime look like on a good night?
Well, I'm going to go off of what does Ellen say, how this approach would work is right, like if you're doing cookies or whatever, right, that the cookies are on the table with the tacos, right?
Okay.
So you have all of the pieces of the meal, right? You have the tortillas, the meat, the cheese, the lettuce, right, all, and the cookies. They're all on the table. And so as that child is creating their plate, they may also take some of the dessert. Now, some children eat that first. Some children eat it in the middle. Some children don't maybe want it. Maybe it's a dessert they don't like. Like we had fruit pie last night, and one of my kids was like, I don't like fruit pie. I'm like, fine, right? Like, she only wanted, we had ice cream with it. She just wanted the ice cream, fine, right? Like, so that just allows them.
I will say from my own experience, like, one thing I feel like my mom did right. I mean, she did a lot right. Sorry, Mom, if you hear this. But food-wise, I think one thing she really did right. She, she would definitely. We had dessert every night, and we didn't have to earn it. Like, if anything, my mom was just so worried I wasn't eating that she was like, eat as much sugar as you want. You just need to eat something. So eventually, she'd just cave, and I'd eat dessert every night. And I remember I'd also just have we had an open snack drawer, and we'd have loads of cookies in there. I could eat Oreos whenever I wanted. I had mint chocolate chip ice cream, like a cup of mint chocolate ice cream almost every day when I got home from school. And that's such a positive memory for me. Like, I just remember going home and really looking forward to my cup of mint chocolate chip ice cream. And because of that, I don't feel like I overate the sugar. Like, I never ate a whole row of cookies. I just really could, because I could eat it whenever I wanted. And my husband is just baffled by this, because he grew up with sugar's bad, but then at the same time they'd all binge eat it and then feel really bad and then have this really weird experience. And I just never had that, because it was never not okay to eat the sugar. And so with my daughter, it's very the same. I let her eat whenever she wants. And we get ice cream almost every day at the place in Linwood Center. And she just loves it, and we love the experience. She we give her obviously a very, very tiny amount, but she almost half the time leaves half of it empty. We often give her cookies because I bake cookies a lot. I have such a sweet tooth. She'll eat 2 bites of cookie and leave the rest of the cookie there. It's pure sugar, and she still isn't eating. She never. And I just remember specifically my friend growing up, whose mother was an almond mom, as they say, And I grew up. I was very, very thin growing up. That's why my mom was really worried. And my friend's mom was just so anal about her daughter being thin, and she came over to our house. And she I was oh, do you want cookies? Let's just go. And she's are you allowed to eat these? And I was yeah, of course. And then so I brought the Oreos out, and we're watching TV, and she ate 2 rows of Oreos. And then she got in so much trouble with her mom, and my mom was I don't know what to do in this situation. But I was she just wasn't. And looking back on that, I'm that's so traumatizing. That looking back, I'm can you imagine being so hungry that you went to your friend's house and ate 2 rows of cookies because you weren't allowed to eat them? Scary.
Yeah. We call that food neutrality.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
The goal is that all food is neither good nor bad.
Yeah, we need calories.
And again, coming back to that competent eater, right? That child that we're trying to raise to be a competent eater. They know when to stop. They know when to start. They know how many cookies to have to make their body feel good.
Yeah.
So
wild.
I have a huge correction to make in our house.
Don't worry, we have
all
the time.
do.
Yeah.
Feeding is always a journey.
So what if they just eat the dessert first and leave the rest of the food? How do you sit there and not...
At least they're eating then, though. They got the calories in.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, mine loves sugar.
Yeah.
Because I think it's,
If
taboo.
it's been made a little forbidden.
It has been.
Yeah.
That's,
Let me tell you...
There's a lot of undoing.
I went to University of Wisconsin, and those girls whose parents didn't let them drink when they got to college. Whereas my parents was a glass of wine with dinner pretty often as a high schooler. I was allowed to drink, and I was what is wrong with these people? It's and those girls are, don't make it a forbidden fruit. It's not very exciting once you're allowed to have it all the time. You might be surprised. Maybe if you give them full access to it, what if they eventually oh, it's not that. A, they'll learn that their stomach hurts eventually because it will hurt, and B, they might be I actually want something else because it's not exciting.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd assume that's what would happen because if I could drink as much wine as I wanted, I'd learn my lesson pretty quickly.
Yes.
I love that you've lived it, right?
Yeah.
And that you actually have that example and that contrast with you and your husband, right? Because oftentimes, too, in a family, there may be different approaches to food and eating, from your child that you're bringing into raising your own children that can complicate things.
Yeah. My husband's finally, we've been together for 7 years, and he is just getting around to, you don't have to eat everything on your plate, because he'll be he'll a whole, how Chipotle's burritos are so big, and afterwards his stomach hurts every time, and I have to gently be you don't have to eat the whole burrito. we're not struggling financially that much. We can get you another burrito later if you want one. You're okay. You don't have to eat this all just because it's there. And he just feels so bad throwing food away. But I know.
We all have our things,
yes,
right?
We do.
Yes, and our children do too.
Yeah.
So I love that, you're here and just trying to learn about more of those darts, right? The different approaches and ways to do it without feeling it. I think the tricky piece is without going crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
And I can tell you that has already happened. Losing my mind.
It's so hard, even though this is my career and I help other people do it all the time. I still get frustrated and I still get irritated and I still don't know how to approach some situations in my own home, right? It can be really difficult.
Makes sense. Well, I think that's all. I got all my questions answered.
Yes. Well,
Say we're on time.
I would love to know if there's any supplement that you like.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Or anything that you could recommend how to add in some.
Ensure.
Exactly. They should sponsor BYS. I should reach out. Well, and just, the gummy thing kind of is a bit of a turnoff because I'm so are we now just promoting, now they're going to have cavities. Now they're going to, but I'll if there's a good gummy vitamin, I will push it or not push it, but have it there. I need to stop pushing apparently.
I am not a big supplement person in general, right? I'm looking at a food first approach. and this idea that kids can meet their nutrition needs when given all the tools. However, there also can be like I kind of describe them as a nice insurance policy, right? Like if it makes you feel better to kind of give your child a vitamin.
It's probably more peace of mind for us than for anything else. Yeah.
I mean, they're so processed. I mean, how much nutritional value do they have?
There are some micronutrients, vitamins and minerals that are, in lower content in some of our food at this point, right? Like, and vitamin D is an example of one that, we get from the sunshine, and here in the Pacific Northwest, we unfortunately don't see enough of that. So vitamin D supplement can be a good idea. But a lot of times I do sort of refer that back to a pediatrician who knows more of the medical history of the child to see if there is any reason, or say you're a really plant-based household, we might want to look at iron or B vitamins. Or so sometimes I'm looking kind of more at the situation in terms of medical history or what they're eating or not eating to see if there's a deficiency that could show up that we could fill in with a vitamin. But in terms of a multivitamin,
they're all the same.
They're
Okay.
but
Yeah.
do one. I don't know if you want to.
Okay, okay.
What about, my daughter has constipation. Do you have
Oh, well,
any-
how do we dive into that? How
Oh,
are
yeah.
we on?
I know, sorry. Oh, yeah. I was just
whole
going to ask
other
about
world,
a
isn't
fiber
it?
supplement.
Yes. So
Do you believe in fiber supplements? Can we put in fiber supplements?
since specifically, it's like the tiny bit that I know about you. Since your daughter drinks water, there's actually some great fiber supplements that will
That could
dissolve
dissolve into
really well in
water.
water.
Okay, cool.
And I would maybe start there because those can be really
Yeah, water, just as long as it doesn't affect the taste. Okay, cool.
and the other thing about fiber supplements in water is that if they sit for very long, it makes the water thicker.
Gotcha.
Right, so you'll kind of want to put it in what she can drink, which might make it a little bit trickier on a 2.5-year-old, right?
Gotcha.
I don't know how much she's drinking in one sitting.
And
But
no, that's very helpful. I have a list of things to do now.
Or I do a lot of sprinkling is what I call it. Like ground flaxseed
Nice.
or some of those, I call them sprinkles in their applesauce, right? I'll kind of sprinkle different fiber-rich food into.
I love that hack.
That's kind of, and if I forget sprinkles, sometimes I get called out on,
Nice.
where's my sprinkles? So,
Well, that's good. That's
Cute.
good. My last question is, at what stage, so for Jennifer and for myself with our kids at different ages, when do we engage with a nutritionist?
Anytime, honestly, is kind of my first thought. But sooner rather that, it's a lot easier to kind of set things up than to undo, because,
Where I'm at. I'm the undo phase, and you're the
you're
setup phase.
Well,
Right.
So great.
So it's a little, it's just a little bit easier starting off with some of that foundation. But also, when you're working with older kids, you can also explain it like they're also starting to be able to think and to reason with, and that sometimes is, once you're out of sleepless. Like just
Totally.
out of survival mode.
Yes.
Right. Right. Which
My
when
boobs
I
are
had-
completely full right now. My burn.
Yeah. I feel like when I had little ones, it was just getting through the day. It didn't
Yeah.
so much matter. And you might not have the capacity to throw as many darts. Right. And so as they get older, you might be able to. But whenever you're thinking about it is when I would say do it.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you so much.
I know.
I've learned so much. I really appreciate you.
Glad to be here.
Yes, thank you both so much for joining BYS today. Thank you for your knowledge and expertise, Emily, and for opening up this dialogue. Jennifer, that's awesome. I personally have so many takeaways to incorporate in our feeding and around our table. I'm super excited. Picky eating is so applicable to so many families, and having a real conversation around it provides a wonderful resource for our community. And with that, we leave you with the foundation that healthy youth begins with healthy families, and healthy families build healthy communities.